Why would anyone spend big money on a scope when you can find them for around £50 on eBay? Surely a scope is a scope, isn't it? Hello and welcome to AAR on Air. Today I'm going to look at the difference between a really cheap scope and a more premium scope. Now, I could look at scopes in excess of £1,000 or even more, but they definitely fall into the laws of diminishing returns and are out of the reach of most of the airgunning community. But should you spend £200, £300 or nearly £400 on a scope for your favourite rifle? Right from the start, here is the spoiler alert. Yes, you probably should spend £200, £300 or even around £400 on a scope if you have a decent rifle and can afford it. So, with that out of the way, I suppose now I need to justify that rather bold statement. Because to quite a few people out there, this is quite a lot of money. And I am going to try and prove it is more economical to spend that amount rather than buy a cheap one. Here goes. Firstly, let's discount some scopes out of this equation. The really cheap non-focusing scopes off eBay will give you parallax issues and are not going to be particularly accurate. And I certainly wouldn't entertain one for target work or even hunting for that matter, personally. They are fine for plinking at tin cans in the back garden and making you feel a bit like a sniper, albeit that a sniper on a major restricted budget. And of course, you would never find a sniper using one anyway. With that out the way, we're starting to hit lower middle price ground and we will take the quality up from there. I suppose the difference starts with the box, because you aren't going to get anything fancy with a really budget item and should straight away give you a bit of a clue as to what the contents are going to be like. But you're not buying the box, I realise that. It does, however, go a long way to protect your item when it's in transit. So, is it relevant? Yeah, I would say so. It gives you a bit of a clue. Let's take a look at a typical eBay budget item then. Here we have a Bushnell 4-16 by 40 AOEG. Well, we don't, because even though it may say Bushnell on the side, I can pretty much assure you this isn't a genuine or real Bushnell. So you've bought yourself a knockoff. Not a good start and proof that all that glitters isn't necessarily gold. But you have yourself a 16 times magnification scope. No, I would say it's nearer 14 times, and you can't rely on the markings on the zoom ring to be anything like accurate. The focus ring is on the front end and not the side as most higher grade scopes are, and it must be said when it's on the side it's a lot easier to use under normal shooting conditions. The turrets to adjust and zero your scope are a bit Heath Robinson, with twist off dust caps to access them, and then when you eventually do get inside, often you need a coin or a screwdriver to even make any adjustments. Not particularly user friendly when you're out in the field. This one at least has a small knob to be able to make those vague adjustments, and believe me, there is nothing sharp and accurate about the adjustment clicks. This will then show up as vague adjustments to your point of zero down range and will ultimately become very frustrating when it simply won't zero to your intended bullseye. The tube is 1 inch diameter, which means the amount of light coming into this is going to be reduced. This one even comes with an illuminated reticle to help on those dusk and dawn shoots, which is intended to enable you to see better. Nah. The only thing you're going to see with this lit up is the reticle and the inside of the tube, because it's like looking at a car's headlights coming towards you and it blinds you, blocking out the target itself. So it's more the fact it can say it has the feature as opposed to it being any use whatsoever. Well, I've really insulted and trashed this one so far, and I've barely even looked through it yet. Actually looking through it, the quality of the glass used in the lenses becomes evident, and the amount of light transmission is greatly restricted, and so is the sharpness of the image. The reticle inside is a thick black wire reticle and not a nice thin etched item. And at this point you also realise the chances are you've bought a scope for a crossbow and not an air rifle. And the mil dots inside are pretty much for show, with no real indication of their accuracy or usefulness. I think at this point I'll stop there, because I may be upsetting some people who have bought this scope thinking they'd had a bargain. By the way, I actually bought this one and I have used it, and yes, it's pretty poor. Let's step it up a little, shall we? What about this little beauty? Oh, if only bigger meant better. Sadly, in this case, no, it really doesn't. This is the ZOS 10-40 by 50 ESF, or side focus, and it comes with a 30mm tube. Ooh, wow. This should be spot on with numbers like those, shouldn't it? Well, a bigger tube should let more light in to have a brighter and clearer image. But let's not forget the part the glass plays in all this, and if the quality of the lens is low, then it's not really going to benefit you that much. Coupled with the fact that there are some 30mm boasting scopes out there that are actually only 1-inch internals. This does have a side focus wheel, which makes it easier to use in the field, but it has more play in it than a 30-year-old Datsun 120Y that's been abused throughout its entire lifetime, and they weren't that good from new. This naturally doesn't help, and will also become rather annoying and frustrating the more you use it. Then we look at the turrets. No caps to screw off here. Bonus. Open visible markings with a notched grip top, and by the looks of it, a screw in the top to be able to recenter once you've zeroed it. The only issue is the clicks are a bit hit and miss, feeling anything but true and accurate. There is no turret lock, which means they can easily be knocked off zero when you're putting it in and out of your bag or case. And like the side focus wheel, they are pretty big looking items and out of place. Turning the zoom ring is harder than getting a teenager away from Miss September's centre spread, and again cannot really be classed as smooth, and even leaves dents in your finger when you use it. It's that stiff. The illumination on the reticle is somewhat better and less blinding, but again, it's a pretty thick wire reticle and not a quality etched item. The mil dots again are not a true measurement for any serious holdover or hold under work. It does come with flip up covers, but again, not really top drawer items. On either of the ones I've looked at so far, neither come with any form of sunshade, so you are likely to get a fair bit of glare or flaring on the lens, which is going to seriously impact the image if you're shooting anywhere near into the sun. What about that 40 times magnification then? Surely that must be good. After all, it's a big number. Well, often with big numbers in lower quality scopes and with poor lenses, the more you magnify it, the more milky the image gets, and it can also become very difficult to focus it accurately with that Datsun steering rack focus ring. I suppose so far I've wasted a lot of money buying these items. Yep, You'd be right, because by now I've spent just about enough to have been able to buy a pretty decent scope. And at this point I should also highlight that these have been used on low recoil PCPs, and if you drop them onto a decent powered Springer, or heaven forbid a rimfire, they would probably be pretty much destroyed by now. Next up then, because for the money I've just wasted on those two, I could have bought one of my by now go-to pieces of kit, a Veyron from Vector Optics. Now I've done a full review on the range of these Veyrons, but this is more about highlighting the differences in the range of scopes, so you can always look at that review if you want for more information here. So what is the difference with this third option then? Are the numbers big enough and exciting enough? This is a 6 to 24 by 44 with a 30mm tube. Side focus, and even comes with a first focal plane action. This time the numbers are starting to mean something and are a true representation of what the makers claim. The lens quality is excellent, sharp, clear and bright. The reticle is etched, so it is beautifully fine rather than a thick black obscuring item. The tube is a genuine 30mm to make use of the light coming in through those higher quality glass lenses. There is no illuminated reticle because the money has been spent on high quality components rather than trying to play top trumps around how many things you can stick in a scope. The side focus wheel is smooth with no notchiness to it, and the numbers on the focus ring do actually represent the real distances you're focusing out to, which helps greatly with range finding. The turrets, and indeed all the actions, have moved up into a whole new world of quality feel, with the turrets having a lock built into them to prevent accidentally moving them off zero. These simply need lifting to be able to turn them, and then the clicks are evidently much higher quality and are very defined and sure. There is even a tool supplied to move your turrets back to zero, which is a hard plastic item to prevent you from scratching your new pride and joy. The zoom ring is firm yet smooth and has a continuous feel to the action. With this being first focal plane, the much higher quality etched reticle zooms in as you increase your magnification, which ensures your mil dots for your holdover or under are continuous throughout your zoom range, making your holdover or under much easier and completely consistent. The flip-ups included are of much higher quality, and you also have a honeycomb filter supplied to keep that sun glare down to a minimum. Oh, and you also get a set of worth having Weaver type match mounts with the item. I've said it before, this is a bit of a favourite of mine because of its quality, low price, smaller overall size, which means it looks so much better on most bullpups and shorter carbine type rifles, which do seem to be taking over the airgun market these days. This one you can put on your Springer and even on your rimfire rifles too, without fear of destroying it like a budget one would. So far then, hopefully you can start and see the difference between a cheap scope and a quality one. And we've only got to around the £200 mark so far, and yet made huge differences. That is so evident. Let's turn that budget up a little more now then, shall we, and see what the difference is. The example I've got here is the Paragon 5 to 25 by 56 Gen 2, again from Vector Optics. The reason I've chosen another Vector Optics scope is because they are easily as good as some scopes, costing twice the price or more, and I was trying to keep that all important cost figure down without sacrificing that most important quality. So to start with, we have a quality box that will protect this more expensive item in transit and holds all the important extras included in there as well. It has the big numbers with a good zoom range of 5 to 25 with an objective lens of 56mm, which is going to allow some serious amount of light into those quality lenses, into an again genuine 30mm tube, giving it a light transmission of 90% plus and a wide field of vision. That then goes through an etched reticle with all the information a target shooter could ever need, with spot-on accurate mil-dot reticle spacing. Now, this level of accuracy in the reticle is only as good if the turrets are also accurate enough to back them up. Now, the turrets are something else on this scope. They are lockable, resettable in a way that doesn't require any tools. It is probably one of the easiest ways I've seen and is rock solid once it's completed. The adjustments of these turrets is a simple lift and turn, and again, it is super smooth, nothing vague. Then each notch is true and precise. Push the top back down and you're locked again. The side focus wheel again is so smooth and no play in it or vagueness. The distances are true and accurate and can also have a larger focus wheel fitted, helping to make the more minute adjustments even easier. On the end of this focus ring is the 6-point illumination controls, and with the risk of sounding repetitive, the feel and action of this is superb. The illumination is not some ridiculously bright thing, but simply a red dot in the centre of the reticle to give this an almost laser-like feel in dark conditions. Whilst this is a second focal plane rather than a first focal plane of the Veyron, it is very target focused with a true 5 times zoom magnification, which means your hold, over and under calculations are going to be spot on. To prove that these turrets work, the best thing to do is to fix this scope in place, then make adjustments in around the houses way, almost square dancing your settings to ensure you return to exactly where you started from. This little game sorts out the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. Set the 0 on target, move the adjustments down by, say, 10 clicks, then to the right, also 10 clicks, then up 10 clicks, and finally left 10 clicks. And the crosshair should return exactly back onto the original target 0. The zoom range is also a true zoom range with the ability to back those calculations up on each 5-time magnification stage. This comes with a 100mm sunshade that can simply and very easily be fitted on the end. This will then stop any unwanted glare, and the inside of this is machined to prevent any unwanted light that does enter it from glaring and reflecting around once in there. It is then topped off with bikini lens covers to protect those all-important lenses. You also get quality mounts and cleaning cloth included. This little lot will set you back around £365 UK, which is considerably more expensive than the Bushnell we started with, but considerably cheaper than most of its close competitors by a long way. It is still quite a lot of money and possibly won't find itself on a cheap Springer, though it is capable of taking the shock and even capable of taking the shock of a Lapua Magnum 338. But if you consider the cost in relation to the price of a quality airgun these days, then the percentage cost is not that great for a top-end quality scope. Now this is probably 3 times the price of that Zos we looked at earlier, but it is easily 3 times more quality, way more than 3 times in fact. Now if you're about to spend £1,300 on a scope and hold it at the side of the Paragon, then I don't think I can say that it would be 3.5 to 4 times the quality. But that again is the law of diminishing returns kicking in. The conclusion here then is, in my opinion, yes, there is easily a noticeable difference in different price scopes. And if you can afford it, you really should pay that bit more for one. Economics state that even if you buy the cheaper scopes, it will cost you more in the long run because you will replace them and buy a quality one later on, in which case you're going to buy twice and ultimately waste your money. And the quality one is going to last you a lot longer than the eBay specials in most cases. Guaranteed. This week's programme was again intended to answer some of those questions that new starters or recent starters and even some long-time shooters have often wondered. Certainly around scopes. It never fails to amaze me how so many shooters spend such a lot of money on a rifle and then buy a really low quality scope and then ultimately blame the gun for accuracy, or should I say inaccuracy. Shooting to me is all about enjoyment and having the right equipment that feels quality and adds to the overall feel and experience. And it makes the whole day so much more enjoyable. And you don't have to spend thousands, but you do need perhaps to spend more than most people initially spend. Or maybe I should be contentious enough to say waste. This is one of those programs I've been meaning to put together for quite a while, and I finally got around to it. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If so, please, the thumbs up does mean a lot and helps with the channel, along with subscribing. If you want to know when the next review has been released and it's out there, simply click the alarm bell to be notified. We're all over the place in terms of social media these days, so please check out some of all this lot. And lastly, I'd like to say the Veyron and Paragon scopes that I've used in this review were courtesy of Vector Air, and my thanks to them. Thanks also to you for watching. Please stay safe and shoot safe, and hopefully I'll see you next week.